showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
What is up, everybody? This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. I don't know why it's so dark. I don't know why I keep my microphone away from my mouth, but this is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And guys, I was there on Saturday night. I was there at the Commerce Casino. I was there to see Chris Dickinson win the United Wrestling Network World Championship. And I have some clips that I would like to share with you. Is that okay? Does anyone mind if I do that? Here we go. Match could have been match of the year, might have actually been the best match I've seen all year. And I've been in Boyle Heights, I've been in Los Angeles, I've been to Atlanta, I've been to Tijuana, I've been in my own backyard, and that was the best match I've seen all year. And that includes watching that same man, Michael Bennett, wrestling against John Gresham as far as championship wrestling from Atlanta. That match airs this week. But if you missed it on pay-per-view, shame on you. You missed out on a hell of a night of wrestling for the United Wrestling Network. Again, they crowned a new world champion in Chris Dickinson. One of the best matches I've ever seen live. Such a fun time. I hope you guys check that match out. I wanted to share just the few clips with you guys so I could show off what I got to see. Part of doing this, part of being a broadcast journalist or a glorified podcaster, a glorified YouTuber, is the relationships you make with the wrestling promotions along the way. I've been very fortunate to become good pals with David Marquez. So I do admit I have a bias. I do admit that I support United Wrestling Network unabashedly. I flew all the way to China to support the United Wrestling Network when Nick Aldis defended the 10 pounds of gold against Colt Boom Boom Cabana. Being there on Saturday night was maybe the crowning achievement for David Marquez and the United Wrestling Network. It was not only just a television taping, it was also the pay-per-view, the return of Primetime Live back to pay-per-view. And it was a great night of wrestling. If you guys missed out, I do encourage you to go buy that pay-per-view. It was $9.99 on Fight TV. A lot of great matches. Another really stellar match was the LA Dojo Boys. That's Alex Coughlin. That's Carl Fredericks and Clark Connors. They took on the likes of oh God, I'm forgetting his name. Riviera. I can't remember the young guy's name, but there was also Kevin Martinson and the returning Taylor Rust. You might remember him from NXT, Rust Taylor, or from his time in the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood group, Ryan Taylor. He's also currently working in Ring of Honor. That match is a must-see, 6-man, like just absolute chaos. Some of the craziest wrestling I've ever seen. I'm not always a United Wrestling Network homer. I'm also a big NWA fan. And tonight we're also going to talk about that. But real quick, I wanted to ask you guys as fan, Daniel Garcia, thank you, Lamb. Daniel Garcia is part of that 6-man tag that also featured the return of PPV to pay-per-view as they challenged Midnight Heat for the Defy tag team titles. We also saw the debut of The Truth. Not The Truth. That's Ron Killings. The debut of Bulletproof, Blake Troop, who is an MMA fighter and more often than not in the United Wrestling Network, a commentator who finally got into the ring and had one hell of a match with the NWA, the United Wrestling Network Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Jordan Clearwater. And one of the matches that I was really impressed not only by how good and clean and how big and strong Jordan Clearwater has become and has continued to grow as an athlete, but how much of a transition that Blake Troop was able to make from mixed martial arts to professional wrestling. It's not as simple as you would think, and he did it very effortlessly. So I'm very excited about what's coming next for the United Wrestling Network. They have another taping in Atlanta this Thursday night. If you guys are in the Atlanta area or within driving distance, I highly recommend checking it out. It was a hell of a show when I went last month to the Atlanta TV tapings. You'll see a lot of familiar faces from the Georgia independent wrestling scene, including a lot of the students from the Nightmare Factory. So there's my spiel. There's my take on the United Wrestling Network. I want to ask you guys a question. Now that United Wrestling Network has crowned a world champion, who do you want to see become the first challenger for that United Wrestling Network championship? I'm very curious as to see which direction do you think that the United Wrestling Network should go. So, guys, thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about Primetime Live in the United Wrestling Network. I do want to say hi and hello to all my friends here in the chat. We've got Heebs, my boy. Doty's in the house. Lamb, my pal, my friend, my confidant. We've got NWA Gold in the house. I see Fiona's here. You guys, I do appreciate y'all being here and making this part of your weekly viewing habits. My job here is to get you hyped up for NWA POWERRR. And like I said, there's so much good wrestling going on right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. I remember it wasn't that long ago that when I was a younger man, we would have killed for this kind of stuff. You have nationally syndicated wrestling or pay-per-views or cable wrestling every single night. I mean, you could watch Monday Night Raw, you could watch Tuesday night NXT or Impact or the NWA. You could watch AEW on Wednesday nights, on Thursday nights. Maybe Thursday nights is Impact. I'm getting confused now. And then Friday nights, you get SmackDown and Rampage. There's just good wrestling all the time now. And in between all that, there's MLW, there's Ring of Honor, there's Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, there's Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, there's Championship Wrestling Memphis. There's just so much good wrestling available to us. We're spoiled, and it's a great time to be a fan of wrestling. I do want to remind everybody, our good pal NWA Gold is helping us to try to find more subscribers to this channel. Again, we want this community to grow. If we reach 1,000 subscribers, and we're at 716 as of the start of this podcast, which means we're only 344 more to go. Who's keeping track, right? He's going to give away the crown title of the NWA Championship, the belt that Harley Race held, the belt that Jerry, I'm losing track of my thought here. The title that Dory Funk Jr. held, a title that is synonymous with the National Wrestling Alliance of yesteryear. And this title is going to be given away to one of you guys who are subscribed. And not only that, but when we do reach 1,000 subscribers, there is going to be a giveaway. We will give away stuff like a new in the box Nick Aldis action figure. We'll be giving away hats. We'll be giving away t-shirts. We'll be giving away all kinds of fun stuff. So if you haven't subscribed, or if this is your first time watching, please jump on and subscribe to the channel and help us grow this community for the NWA and the United Wrestling Network. So with that being said, I also want to say hi to my friends here. I see Fiona's in the house. What's up, Fee? Lamb's in the house, and he says Tony Nese, Davari, and Marina Sharif will make their debut in Atlanta this Thursday. It's going to be a good night in Atlanta. Sean Mega says if it's not Dan Joseph, then it doesn't matter. That's some serious talk right there from Sean Mega. I didn't know you were such a Dan Joseph fan. He had a pretty good night on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, too. You do want to stay tuned. When those episodes hit, Sean and everyone else watching right now, when those episodes hit on KDOC or in your local market or on YouTube, it hits different, man. This is going to be one of the better shows. It feels like they upgraded in a lot of different areas. The venue looks beautiful. The talent looks crisp. I mean, this is good stuff. He says Mojo Rawley, and you know what? I'm not against that. Why not a little bit of Mojo Rawley in the United Wrestling Network? Lamb says Jeff Cobb, and he liked it and retweeted it. Now, Cobb is in Japan right now, I think, but I wouldn't have a problem with that. And then Lamb says, why is the lighting so dark? Is it DC? I don't know, man. I was messing around with the settings, and I don't know what I did, but sorry, I can't fix it. Not now, anyways. Sean Mega says, yeah, but a lot of these wrestlers can't cut promos. Totally understand that, Sean. Totally understand that. But we're also in this brave new world where sometimes, managers aren't such a bad thing. And if you get the right guy managing the right wrestler, I mean, it can be pretty interesting. It can be pretty fun. Terry McDermott's in the house. He's on the road listening. I do appreciate that, Terry. Be safe, but thank you for checking us out. I do appreciate you listening in. And Dave Scooby wants to remind you all again. Thank you, Dave, to help grow the show. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Whether you're watching us on Twitch or on YouTube, give us that thumbs up, give us that follow, give us that heart. Whatever it is, we do appreciate it. Dodie says, whomever challenges Dickinson, if he defends the first defense before Trevor ever do his first defense, then let's do an evil laugh together. I already heard of when. I know the next Commerce show is going to be on October the 31st, which is Halloween. That'll be a primetime live pay-per-view, and it'll also be a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood TV taping. So if Dickinson doesn't end up defending the title on Thursday in Atlanta, and if he doesn't end up defending the title in Memphis on this, I think it's the 15th or 16th on their next taping, then he'll more than likely be defending the title on the 31st against an unknown competitor. And so we will be doing the evil laugh. Lamb says Jeff Cobb will be at the G1, or will be in the U.S. after the G1. I mean, he would be awesome, right? I was able to see Jeff Cobb live multiple times. I saw him at Ring Warriors in Las Vegas taking on Luke Hawk. I got to watch him wrestle against, believe it or not, I think it was JR Kratos. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was Kratos. Oh, no, it was Josh Barnett. Excuse me. It was Josh Barnett at a QPW show here in Southern California. And Jeff Cobb is great. And he would be an amazing match to see with our pal Chris Dickinson. And Lamb says there's just too many United tapings this month. I mean, it's great for wrestling. This is a good time. You know, the WWE released so much talent, and a lot of these guys were like scared and concerned and worried, like how are they going to continue to make a living for their families? But this is a really good time in wrestling to be a free agent because you have options, you have opportunities. You know, there's guys who are able to wrestle in multiple wrestling promotions. I mean, out here locally in Southern California, we just had Malachi Black wrestling under his independent name Tommy End, teaming with Brody King, former NWA World Tag Team Champion, to win the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Tag titles. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool time in this space and universe. I mean, I know that it could be scary for anyone that doesn't have a job right now, but the opportunity is there, and the cream always rises to the crop. And whether it be the National Wrestling Alliance, whether it be Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, whether it be United Wrestling Network or AWL or any countless other wrestling promotions that are out there, this is a great time for the independents and pro wrestling in general. Now, in tonight's television taping, we haven't even had a chance to talk about that yet, but I said taping. It's not a taping. It's already been taped. This isn't a live event, but there is going to be a lot of action. And of course, there's going to be some storytelling as well. NWA Power tries to blend the studio style of pro wrestling from the 80s. So if you're familiar with the Jim Crockett era of the NWA, and I'm talking from like 1986 was a really good year for the National Wrestling Alliance. My wife wasn't even born yet. That was a great time for pro wrestling in those days. And one of the highlights of that was the amount of talent that came into an area and would leave. And you would always get this fresh roll of what was happening in pro wrestling. And Jim Crockett Promotions was one of the hot areas at that time. And the NWA tries to emulate that by having this ever-evolving roster that you'll see. It's kind of like a Ferris wheel where talent will come in, they'll be here for a little bit, and then they'll leave, and that's totally cool. There's a core roster, and then there's guys that'll come and guys that'll go, gals that'll come, gals that'll go, wrestlers will come and wrestlers will go, and that's totally cool. But on this week's episode of Power, we're going to see J.R. Kratos and Aaron Stevens at the Podium. I don't know if that's with May or if that's going to be with our pal Kyle, but they're going to be discussing what's next for them and their next match in the tag team tournament. Trevor Murdoch will discuss what's next, and hopefully we're going to get some insight into this pay-per-view that's coming up. Is it a pay-per-view? It's kind of hard to tell. I know they said it'd be on Fight. I guess it's going to be a pay-per-view, the Tried and True and NWA joint show that's happening. I think that's that's in like 2 weeks, right? So that's real exciting too. And then we also, even the pressers that are coming out, the tweets from the NWA, perhaps maybe the Pope might have something to say during Trevor Murdoch's opportunity to discuss his World Heavyweight Championship. And then we have Hawk Aerie, and this is another, maybe this might be a little too much, but we'll see how it plays out. Hawk Aerie and Mims and Sal Renaro will also be at the Podium, and perhaps maybe we'll get some insight into their match next week. But then we get some pretty good wrestling scheduled too. Everybody's favorite tag team, La Rebelion, straight from Mexico back to the United States with the NWA World Tag Team titles in tow. They will be in a matchup, and I don't believe the titles are on the line because this is a Lucha Scramble match, and that's going to feature the Illbegotten and Marshe, Rocket, and Slice Boogie. Now, the Illbegotten is kind of a interesting dynamic because it's the pairing of Rush Freeman and Johnny Yuma, or Captain Yuma as he's now being referred to, and it's kind of a weird dynamic. This is very as my partner Kevin would say on the Alliance Guys podcast, this is a very indie pairing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense on paper, but this will be their second time in action, so hopefully we'll see something new or interesting with them. And then of course Marshe and Slice, they have been an on-again, off-again tag team. Now we know Slice Boogie is a tag team champion in the United Wrestling Network, teaming with Danny Limelight as La Bodega. We'll see if any of the success from the United Wrestling Network will translate into tonight's wrestling when he teams with Marshe Rocket. A Lucha Scramble, I'm not exactly sure what that even means. As someone who has watched a lot of Lucha Libre over the years, a scramble match, I mean, I'm not sure what they're going for. I'm not what they're really trying to accomplish on that one. Another match that we're supposed to get is, and I think this one might steal the show, is going to be Kylie Rae taking on Lady Frost. Both of these are dynamic athletes in the ring. They're going to look great. I haven't seen either one of them have a bad match yet on NWA POWERRR, and so we'll see how that's going to go tonight. I'm looking forward to that one as well. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, I don't want to forget, we're going to get more from the saga of Judias and James Storm. Now, I don't know if that's going to translate into a match. We know the match never happened last week, or I should rephrase that. The match was thrown out early last week. They really never even got into much of a competition. It was a lot of pushing and shoving, a lot of swinging and missing. And I'll be quite frank with you, this match seems very, very I'm just going to come out and say it. James Storm whooped his ass last week. James Storm made Judias look really, really bad. And I don't know why this match is even happening. He outclassed him. He outfought him. And this match has lost all steam for me. They didn't make it a very competitive outing last week when that match got thrown out. So I'm not very excited about that. I see some more of our friends showed up, so I want to say what's up to Willie Bowen. Willie's in the house, and he wants to point out that the Jim Crockett Promotions was with the NWA from 1979 to 1990. Yeah, one of the best years of that they had were like that 86-87 season. That was a lot of fun. Lamb wants to point out that Kratos has been killing it in New Japan Strong. And in the NWA, he's been playing drama with Stevens. It is a weird universe, and it is, we have to stop expecting these characters to be the same all across the board, because each different promoter is going to do their storylines differently. They're going to see different talents in different ways. And although Kratos has been a monster in New Japan, that's not really how they've been using him so far in the NWA, which is kind of disappointing. But it is what it is. And then Doty says, what happened to the Rockness Monsters? Yuma disbanded it and repackaged himself into Captain Yuma. The thing about the Rockness Monsters is they have evolved over the years. Early on, it was Johnny Yuma and Johnny Goodtime, the Rockness Monsters. And then Goodtime evolved from Johnny Goodtime to Kevin Martinson, and then later BHK is which he goes by now. And they still do tag team. They went from being the rocker and the gamer into this international, intergalactic space force type, where Yuma and BHK go from planet to planet arresting intergalactic criminals. I know it sounds a little strange. It's fun on TV. It's fun on the indies. It's never really translated well on TV. And of course, Lamb wants to bring up Vermin, because for a short time there was the evil version of BHK and evil version of Yuma that was known as Vermin, that dominated championship wrestling from Hollywood for quite some time. But that's not the case anymore. I do also want to say what's up to our good pal, Rick Del Santo at the PWZ podcast. If you guys haven't checked him out, he does some NWA content, but also some Northeast wrestling content. I do like what Rick does out there. He's on TikTok. He's on Instagram. He's on Tumblr. He's not Tumblr. Sorry, that's me. He's also on Twitter and Facebook. Give him a follow. Give him a shout out. Tell him your pal J Cal sent you. And Willie Bowen says that the Rockness Monsters should be a tag team on the NWA roster. I think BHK, Big Hunky Kev, that's what that stands for. Kevin Martinson is one of the most underutilized professional wrestlers on the planet. And what he does in the ring is just amazing. And the fact that he can get out there and he could wrestle, he's a high flyer. He has a crazy amount of power for somebody his size. he would absolutely kill it in the NWA with Yuma as a tag team. Unfortunately, they would also be the smallest guys on the roster. That's not to say that they wouldn't be fun. I just don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. Doty says, NWA Power on paper always has an interesting card until we see nonsense happen. And that's the case with last week's episode. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse because, quite frankly, Kevin, DKM, and myself beat that horse to a bloody pulp last week. But last week's episode was maybe the worst episode of Power that I've ever seen. And I've been very critical of the NWA. And I've also been very, I praise the National Wrestling Alliance. And it all comes down to, everyone has their own individual taste. But last week absolutely made no sense to me. And I don't want to beat it up any more than I already did. Our good pal DKM says, because it would make sense if they played the same character across the board, and we will have none of that in modern day wrestling. See, that's the thing. There's too many egos in professional wrestling. And I don't say that, that's everyone across the board. Everybody thinks they're doing it the right way, whether they are or they aren't, whether you agree or not. Everyone across the board thinks they're doing it their own right way. My God, it is too dark in here. What is going on? I feel like I'm in a cave. I don't know why it's so dark, guys. I apologize. See, now we just flip the hat over because we're ready for action. All right. Willie Bowen, always watch tires put away. Chuck Rostat. Willie, you crack me up, brother. Keep them coming. I love it. I gotta give you your own segment every week. Gotta pull up a choke on Mr. Tyrus. And then Lamb says, really the worst than the legendary tag team episode from Shadow Fall season. I mean, it was pretty bad, Lamb. I don't know if you got a chance to check it out. It was awful. It wasn't good, man. It just wasn't good. And I look, I'll be the first one to admit that I don't know everything about pro wrestling. I sit here and listen to Kevin talk sometimes, and I give him a lot of value. I put a lot of value in what he has to say because Kevin has actually been in the ring. So when Kevin tells me a match is awful, I take that with a lot of gravity because he's somebody that's been in the ring. And when Kevin says a match was great, sometimes I'm scratching my head saying, what was great about it? It was awful. But I take what he has to say with a lot of seriousness because, again, he's been in the ring. I never have been in the ring, so I'm not at liberty to say what's good or what's not. See, God, I hate this. Sorry, guys. I can't do anything about how dark it is. I apologize. I'm trying, but just nothing seems to work. Anyways, yeah, Batcave. It is the Batcave. With that being said, I do know what I like and I know what I don't like, and I can watch a wrestling match and I can tell you what I do like. And last week was just really bad. I mean, you teased Dane coming out to challenge for the title. I'm guessing, I believe Trevor Murdoch was working that injury. I don't know if it's what was going on with it, but to have Dane come out there and then only to get squashed by Crimson with one punch. I know Crimson's a bad dude, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but getting knocked down and just out, I mean, that is not becoming of a character. It doesn't build up Jack Stane as a beast. Now, I don't think it hurts Jack Stane in the long run. I just feel like it was a wasted opportunity. Let's save Jax and Crimson for the pay-per-view, for the Tried and True show. I think that would be a better use of their interactions because I just feel like this might have missed the point. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they could have done something more with this. With that being said, I do feel like the NWA has some opportunity, and I think that we'll see what happens tonight. We'll see if where they're going, where they're heading, because you're going to have the Pope apparently be a part of the segment with Trevor Murdoch, and we don't know if that means they're building up to a matchup between Trevor and the Pope. We don't know if that's going to, I don't know how that's going to play out. So at the very least, they have intrigue, and I'm curious about what they're going to do with that. Now, I'll be honest with you, my screen is kind of frozen here, so I don't even know if you guys can still see me, but I'm here, so I hope you guys are too. I see Ron Gibson just joined the chat. Ron, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you being here. Willie asked, did Kevin Frazier ever wrestle Austin Aries? I know he wrestled Davey Richards. I don't think he ever wrestled Austin Aries. I don't know. I don't think he ever did. So we'll ask him the next time that he's on. I know he had a match against Brian Danielson, and I know he won that match. Oh man, my screen is frozen. I just pulled up YouTube on the laptop, so I can see you guys can see me, but I have no control of my control panel at the moment. So that was just fine because we got 30 minutes to kill before POWERRR kicks off. So I'll just talk to you guys, man. What's going on? How are you guys feeling about the NWA? What's everyone thinking? I'll put a poll up here, and I'm going to ask this question. How are you feeling about NWA POWERRR? We'll say good or bad. And now I'm going to ask you guys, how do you feel about the NWA? Do you feel that it's good or bad? I noticed, I'm sorry guys, like I said, this thing is frozen on me. I use StreamYard to broadcast, and I know Denise Salcido had some issues on her podcast recently with StreamYard, and it looks like now I am having similar issues. With NWA POWERRR, I do see like a lot of the chat in Discord, whether it be on the Alliance Discord or This Is Pro Wrestling Discord, I have seen that it's not as positive as it was in the last series of matches. So I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think and how you're feeling about the show. Now tonight, one of the things we do get, and I didn't get to this a minute ago, but we're going to see the return of Tim Storm to the ring. We're going to see a tag team match where Strictly Business is going to be taking on one of its own. We're going to have Tom Latimer and Adonis facing off against Nick Aldis and Tim Storm. Now, Tim Storm and Nick Aldis haven't seen eye to eye since before the POWERRR series started. Remember, their last encounter was a one-on-one match that basically highlighted the first episode of NWA POWERRR. And since that match, Tim Storm has not been allowed to challenge for the title again. But remember, Aldis was trying to keep Tim Storm involved in the business only to squash him again later. So I'm kind of curious as to what's going on. What do you guys think? Okay, I think I got control of the show here. Dave Scooby says that Davey Richards looks great in MLW. I know Davey Richards will be a part of the West Coast Pro Wrestling Show, which is also an affiliate of the NWA. They run their shows up in San Francisco, and he's challenging for their title, the West Coast Pro Wrestling Championship. And then you also want to make sure that we point out that Hammerstone, friend of this show, won the MLW World title. So a lot of interesting things are happening in the world of pro wrestling. Doty brings up he doesn't really expect that the Pope Aldis feud. I don't expect Pop Aldis feud, but for sure it never gave Pope the NWA World title. We riot. Yeah, Doty, I agree with you. I think that our pal the Pope should absolutely get an opportunity to challenge Trevor Murdoch or whomever is holding the 10 pounds of gold. He has it in he won the opportunity during the championship series, so we're going to see him at some point get an opportunity to challenge for that title. We just don't know when. It might not be against Trevor Murdoch. It might be against the next guy. It seems like the show is kind of focusing more on a Jack Stane Trevor Murdoch match, but we'll see how that goes. I don't really know for sure yet. And Doty says no third option. No, it's either good or bad. There's no in between, Doty. And then Jason Newsom, our good pal Jason Newsom. Welcome to the show, Jay. He says absolutely zero storytelling to set up Aldis taking on his best friends. And now you see some of the frustration that I've had with this program. Why? Why did Aldis come out to rescue Tim Storm in the first place? More importantly, why did they put Tim Storm in such a volatile situation last week when if Kyle Davis would have been up there, they wouldn't have been challenging Kyle Davis to a fight because, well, Kyle Davis isn't a wrestler at this point. It would have been like them challenging Joe Galli to a fight. They didn't need to do it. It just didn't need to happen. And they literally put Tim Storm up there to put him at risk and knowing that Tim Storm, look, he's a man, right? He's a wrestler. He's not going to sit by idly and let someone discount him or take pot shots at him or let people call him an old fart. Yeah, they called him an old fart. Latimer, that was funny. But regardless, the storytelling, it just jumps. If I feel like we missed some things, that maybe a backstage segment might have answered some questions. They could have had all this like warning his members of Strictly Business to leave Tim Storm alone or something. But instead, all we got was we jumped to Aldis, who has not been a big supporter of Tim Storm over the last year, come to his aid. It just feels very forced. And I know that some people are like, well, you have to give it a chance for it to breathe, but why couldn't we tell the story leading up to this? It would have made a lot more sense. Doty says he cannot say whether it's good or bad. Actually, you know what, Doty, that's fair. That's fair. There is no wrong answer. It's all your personal preference. He says, what are the chances that Aldis churns or is a setup? See, look. If we're looking at traditional booking, this very much feels like the old Horseman. I guess not Horseman as much, but like when Ric Flair was attacked by Terry Funk and the Great Muta as part of the J-Tex Enterprise, and Sting, who was feuding with Muta at the time, came to Flair's rescue, and it's kind of set up Sting as part of the Horseman, or at least Horseman adjacent, and then they churned on Sting. And they being Arn, Ole, and I believe later it was Sid Vicious. And yes, that would paint Tim Storm as Sting. But that would be kind of like a pointless endeavor because as it is right now, Tim Storm isn't a threat to the World Championship. Aldis has been a man who's been driven by the 10 pounds of gold. So it would make sense for him to not really worry about Tim Storm and as his current character continued to try to get back to Trevor Murdoch. But it just feels like that's not what they're going for. And I feel like this might be setting up a character change for Nick Aldis. I mean, him coming out to stop his brothers in Strictly Business from attacking Tim Storm is not in Nick Aldis's nature. I mean, he didn't do anything to help Trevor Murdoch when Chris Adonis attacked Trevor Murdoch on that first episode back for the attack. So it doesn't set up. It doesn't make a lot of sense. DKM says 50-50. I mean, that's fair, man. I wouldn't take from our podcast that you think it's 50-50, but we'll go with that. I think DKM is at work. I think that's what he meant by that. Willie Bowen says, I remember when Sergeant Slaughter attacked Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair came to Steamboat's aid. Yeah, I mean, there's history of this, right? Like, this could be a big setup. This could be a challenge. Or it could just be a new Nick Aldis. You know, he's played the same character for about 2 years now, and maybe he's bored with it. Maybe the NWA is bored with Aldis in that role. Or maybe he's done everything he can do as world's heavyweight champion. And until Trevor Murdoch is built up as a better champion or someone worth defeating, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at the storytelling, and I fancy myself as a bit of a storyteller, Why is Nick Aldis not pursuing the 10 pounds of gold? What changed his heart? The loss? Wouldn't that make him angrier? In his character in the past, the character that has been presented, a loss would only infuriate him. He's a man who's been bent on proving why he's the best. He's a man who will take no criticism. He is a man who will not allow you to speak unkind about him. He will block you on Instagram. He will block you on Twitter. He'll block you on Facebook. He won't listen to the negativity. He won't hear it. He's a man who's driven by perfection. 1,044 days as world's heavyweight champion. His combined reign, I think, is even like 13 or 1,400 days as world's heavyweight champion. He will not sit idly by and let anyone besmirch what he's done for the NWA, and he won't take back what he's done to procure the spot that he had with the company. So why would all this change because he lost the title? It just that rationale doesn't make sense to me, and they haven't done their job in filling in the dots. Yes, his wife is involved with the NWA in some capacity, but that doesn't mean he's going to all of a sudden be a different person. The storytelling, there's just gaps. Now, are they going to try to fill it? Apparently so, but I don't understand. Ron Gibson says, did you notice that Josephus captain hat that Aldis had on his lampshade in the background, almost like a symbolic way of saying a character change? I did not notice that, and that's a good point, Ron. I didn't see that, and maybe that was the little hint that they were trying to show us. Remember when Josephus tragically passed away, we radically got a different version of Aaron Stevens, his longtime friend and confidant. Stevens went from being a heel to a babyface overnight, and in every aspect of the character changed because of the passing of Josephus. Now, personally, I felt like that made a lot of sense because of the connection he had to Josephus, but even still, like, changing the character in that sense made sense. But Nick Aldis, stayed who he was after that passing of Josephus. It seems like a long roundabout way for him to all of a sudden have a new character based on that. But Heaves points out that's deep, and it is. I didn't catch that. That's a good catch from Ron. I know Lamb's joking, but Ellsworth versus Aldis 2 could help get views. Let's take that into consideration. And I know Lamb likes to point that out because it's kind of silly because it's James Ellsworth. But that's just how popular Nick Aldis was as world's heavyweight champion. And when the NWA, when the United Wrestling Network were working together, and that match went live from the Ocean View Pavilion in Port Hueneme, California, where your pal J Cal was sitting in the back. And yeah, there were tech issues getting ready, but man, they were so ecstatic at that number. 1.4 million views. That is crazy. And it went live. I think that says a lot about how popular the NWA was leading up to the All-In pay-per-view, and how much that was significant in building that to that pay-per-view. He said he saw the hat too, but couldn't put a finger on it. You guys must have been just paying a lot more attention than I did. I didn't even notice it. Terry McDermott says that the NWA Power is a C- show. I will say this, for as much grief as I give the NWA about the show, there's really 3 wrestling programs that I watch regularly. And I use the term regularly loosely because I started watching Championship Wrestling from Memphis, but I haven't seen maybe the last 4 weeks of episodes. So I'm a little behind on that. I will be watching Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, but I had also taken a break from that show as well because it's been in repeats. So the NWA is really the only wrestling program that I watch on a regular basis, and I'm very familiar with all the storylines. I'm following the product very closely. This is my Monday Night Raw. This is my AEW Dynamite. This is the show that I spend the most amount of time with. And so I can honestly say what I do and do not like about it. And there are times where the show puts a big fat smile on my face. It makes me very happy to be a champion of this brand. Not a champion like I hold a title, but someone who's been telling people for years how great the NWA is. And it makes me feel like I've been validated. And when I see Nick Aldis defend the 10 pounds of gold in China, or when I see Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes in the center of the ring at All In, I feel very validated. And then there's times where I feel like I made a fool of because I see Nick Aldis wrestling against Flip Gordon on a pay-per-view. And I think, why are we seeing this match? Or when they're building to a match that we saw a year before. And I feel like, why are we doing this? What's the rehash? Why are we doing this? There's better options out there. So it'll be nice to see what happens next for the NWA. Of course, tonight, Trevor Murdoch is going to kind of lay out his plan as world's heavyweight champion. And I don't know if that's going to include the Pope. I don't know if that's going to include Jack Stain. I don't know if that's going to include a challenge from the outside. I don't know if that's going to include a challenge from the inside. But we'll see. Dave Scooby says, down the line, Aldis and Mickey versus Latimer and Kamir for control of Strictly Business. Who is the true power couple? Something to that. Hey, while they're at it, why don't they go bring back our boy Royce Isaacs and have May and Royce back in it too? We'll have a triple threat. Who can control Strictly Business? Willie Bowen says that he agrees with Terry McDermott. C-. All right. Heeb says it's not the best show, but it's still my favorite show. Heebs, yes. It's not the best, but it's the show I tune into every Tuesday. And I tune in with a gusto. I'm excited about it. Ron Gibson says the NWA Reband was so over that Rock. Let me try that again. The NWA rebrand was so over that The Rock commented on it on Twitter. I doubt that Rock would say anything about it now, though. I mean, there was a lot of people talking about Trevor Murdoch winning the 10 pounds of gold. And it wasn't just, NWA fans. There was a lot of positive out there. And honestly, the Empower pay-per-view, followed by the 73rd, was a very good feel good moment for the NWA, and I really feel like they missed the boat on cashing in on all that goodwill that they had. These shows have been a very significant drop in quality. Now that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. It just means like you don't have to drop it down. You can come back up. It can always come back up. So anyways, as we keep going, Willie Lamb says, Willie, it started as an A-, but after last week brought down the overall grade. Wow. So one show for Terry McDermott. Lamb says, oh yeah, I forgot about how nobody gave an F about Aldis versus Flip at the Hard Times for the world title. Flip Gordon's a fine young man. He's a great wrestler. I see a lot of potential in him, but he's not even the star of Ring of Honor at this point. Where is he right now? Is he even wrestling in Ring of Honor? When is the last time he did something so significant that made the whole world stop and take a look at him? Now, I know that in wrestling, that's nobody's doing that right now. But when Aldis wrestled against Flip Gordon, you could have made a case for a match between Brody King having more significance at the time. Could you imagine Brody King versus Nick Aldis at that Hard Times pay-per-view? That might have been a lot more fun. Heeb says Royce as a fired-up babyface versus Strictly Business would be awesome TV. Royce didn't sit down and do nothing after he left the NWA. He left Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He split up with his manager, Jamie Iovine, and then reformed his tag team, the 1%. They changed their name to the West Coast Wrecking Crew. They're now part of Team Filthy in New Japan Strong. I think they've been working matches with Defy. They're a solid tag team. I don't think you'd want to break that up. They have a good thing going for them, but Royce Isaacs making his return to the NWA to mess up Strictly Business would be a heck of a lot of fun for me. Fiona says she missed a whole chunk. Fiona, we've been talking about the good and the bad of the NWA Power and where people are ranking the show and some of the things we would like to see. You know, basically what we do every Tuesday, because we already talked about the shows. I mean, Tim Storm and Nick Aldis, the matchup, it doesn't make a ton of sense on paper. I know that they're trying to, I guess they're trying to rehash or rebuild the good guy Nick Aldis. I just feel like we need more time before we could rush into that, but we'll see how that goes. Matthew Underwood says, who's running the show now that Lagana is out? I think the show organization is suffering. So Lagana's been gone for a long time, right? Lagana left basically June of 2020, even maybe a little bit before then. So he's been gone and out of the picture for a while. Everything that you see on TV is a product of the booking of Billy Corgan. Now, that's all the good and all the bad. It all stops with him. It all starts with him. So it's not – there's moments where the show is really good and there's moments where the show is really bad. And the booking, yes, that plays a role in it too. Sometimes it's the editing. Sometimes it's the match pacing. Very rarely do I feel like it's the talent inside the ring. But we'll see how that goes. He said 6 months of TV and a packed GPB studio is what the NWA needs to get back on track. Heebs, I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. There's something magical about the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studio, and I will say that because I was somebody who sat in it for 4 hours on 2 nights, and watching that crowd react to the weirdest things like Josephus under the question mark mask or the Rock and Roll Express winning the NWA World Tag Team titles. I mean, that building has such great chemistry when it's packed and they're doing live wrestling in that area and in that building. And I think if the NWA gets back to that, I think there could be some good things. I'm not going to say that the wrestling at the Chase hasn't been good, but I feel like after the pay-per-views, these TV shows haven't been as good. I feel like there's been a drop in production. I feel like there's been a drop in execution, and I'm not trying to put anyone in particular down. I feel like, our boys at This Is a Pro Wrestling Podcast have really stepped it up. I feel Gary Horn in his backstage interviews have been really good. I mean, my only beef though is, can they not get Gary an NWA shirt to wear, a polo or a T-shirt? I mean, hell, get that man an Alliance Blog shirt for crying out loud. Heebs also points out that Flip Gordon has been pretty hurt for the last 2 years. Again, I'm not trying to besmirch the man, but I just feel like in 2019, January or December of 2019, I don't feel like he moves the needle. I wasn't excited about him getting a shot at Nick Aldis when there's so many other wrestlers out there that would have made a lot more sense. And then Matthew Underwood says Royston an AEW dark match versus FTR. I mean, AEW has really brought in almost everybody at some point, whether it's a dark match or regular show. Lamb says, please no, Royce is in such a good place right now. Going back to NWA would be a huge downgrade. I mean, look, I'm going to say this, and I mean it 100%. When the NWA is right, it's damn good TV. When the booking's on, when the talent's on, I really feel like the NWA is probably one of the best wrestling promotions in the country. We just need to get back to that. Lamb says, it is. His booking in the NWA was terrible. His place in New Japan Strong is the best thing that's happened to him. Yeah, you're probably right on that one. Willie Bowen says Royce Isaac versus Trevor Murdoch would be a great match. I mean, it would be fun. I don't think that Royce is ready for a world title match. Terry says, I thought Nick was going to wrestle overseas for a while. I know that he is going to Poland to wrestle, and I think he's actually already going there. I think he might even already be there. I think it happens this week, but he'll probably be back in time for the show in Kentucky. We already saw that. Willie says Jack Stain versus Trevor Murdoch will also be a great match. I agree with you on that one, Willie. And that's where we're going to leave it today, because there's about 5 minutes till 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 10 minutes till it's time for Power. So we're going to leave it at that today. I do appreciate you guys being a part of this show. This is one of the highlights for me every week, is Tuesday, when I can talk to you, my pals, my friends, and we could talk NWA, and this community can continue to grow. I do see Hebe says that Chris Masters is on his way to Poland too. I did see that. Matthew Underwood starting his, based on the fact that LA Knight was not drafted to Raw or SmackDown, we need to free Eli Drake. Make that a hashtag if you want to. I think it's fun. I'll be definitely tweeting some free Eli Drake post here very soon. If you enjoy this show and you would like to see more of it, well, I'll let you know that we do have our usual show on Thursdays, where we recap NWA Power every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Of course, you can watch the replay on YouTube, but there's nothing quite like being a part of the live chat. If you really do like the show, please share it with your friends. Make sure you're sharing it on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and on all the places you can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog, Tumblr, Facebook. Is Facebook working today? You can check us out on all these places. If you want to support us financially, you could do so by buying one of these really cool hats that have the Alliance logo on it, or one of these Alliance Wrestling t-shirts that you can find at our merchandise account. The link is in the description of the podcast. Ron Gibson wants to say that he'd like to see Bully Ray do a match versus Murdoch or Aldis, and I'd be on board with that 100%. But that's going to do it for us this week. Again, we'll see you on Thursday. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you. I'm stalling because I'm trying to find the clip video. We'll see you at the matches. Y'all have a good night now.